Hey friends, it's Abigail Luvisi. Welcome back to Judgment Free Zone. We need vulnerability and empathy now more than ever. I hope you are able to find room for more curiosity, self-compassion, and empathy for yourself and others while you're here. I show up so you can too. Real quick, before you get into the episode, I did end up doing a little bit of breath work at the end, so I just want to put the disclaimer out there that if you are listening to this while you're driving, please do not do this little breathwork practice alongside with me unless you are on the side of the road, you pull over, you're in a safe space to do so. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the first episode of season 2. I am a little nervous. I'm really excited because I love podcasting, and I've also never done a solo episode up until now. My throat is also a little scratchy today. I had an anger release yesterday and was full on screaming into my pillow. I'm also getting used to, I'm going to upload. The adventure this time is to make sure that I'm uploading all of them into YouTube. And so I'm looking at myself in the camera because, the screen is full, and I'm going to look at you. So yes, first solo episode, season 2 of Judgment Free Zone. I'm already emotional and excited to be here. I'm going to really share my story as much as I can today. And we'll see how it goes. Something I told myself why I didn't want things on camera last season, right, is one, it was my first time doing episodes, and 2, you can't tell awkward moments, but on a video, you get to see all of the moments, right? But that is also what makes what I've wanted so special. It's the next level, right? Which we're constantly evolving is, it's all about having empathy and being curious and that vulnerability piece. And that vulnerability piece is recognizing and knowing that awkward moments aren't bad. They make us human. And so I'm excited to have all of the moments with you. So thank you for sharing this space with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of the showing ups in the way that you are doing, how you're constantly evolving for you, how you are being a ripple effect for yourself. And I hope that, just like my intro says, is that this space can create you to feel seen, that you can know that your voice matters too, and that you matter as I share who I am with you. So with that, I am going to share my story with you. And I've shared some pieces last season with my husband, and I'm not going to lie to you, that's really what I wanted to do today. I even talked about it with him yesterday. I was like, I don't have to do a solo episode. People like hearing from both of us. It's fine. But I knew that was me, again, trying to protect myself. I knew that it was me just trying to cover a little bit more of not really being seen. And so here we are. I'm not sure where we're going to go. I didn't take notes. I did homework with my life coach recently, leading into my anger release yesterday, of really just talking about some things that had come up to me in an hour time frame of writing down all my thoughts of my story. And so I'm going to just share them with you. And I can tell I'm rambling, and so we're just going to start. So up until a few years ago in therapy, I've been in therapy my whole life. And I'm really not sure. Well, I kind of am, even as I process it. I think the reason therapy didn't become like a resource I didn't want, because I could easily see how it could have as I got into adulthood, just totally rejecting therapy. I think the reason it didn't was because I did always believe that something was innately wrong with me, that I was defective, that it did make me in the pendulum swing better and wanting to constantly fix myself. So it was always like searching for how to be better, how to be perfect, right? Which is, you can't. And so I have these things that I always say to my clients too, or my kids, right? Like our greatest strengths are our greatest weaknesses. And I have a ton of shame. So I had a lot of shame growing up. In therapy, I was constantly told that I was doing everything wrong from not the therapist necessarily. I don't feel like I got those messages from her, but from my mom or my sibling. My brother was a father figure to me, and I really felt like I was never enough and would never be enough. And he might not feel that way. Those were my perceptions, and those were the things that I became to believe about myself. And I say that again just to show the growth, because with that, I will say that like I've completely cut off my family. I don't talk to my mom. My dad passed away a year and a half ago, and we were never close. He was in prison most of my childhood, and it was for some really inappropriate conduct that my understanding to this day is that he had tendencies and sat next to another person, another kid naked on the couch in a robe. And I don't think I've like fully processed that either. And, from a very young age, understandably so, my brother completely cut him off. And I can have empathy for that. Like that's a lot. And I don't think that, like I said, I've unpacked it a lot that myself. Over the last few years before his death, I definitely was curious about what happened and his part of it. And anytime I had, and I know I brought it up before, anytime I ever had brought it up, it was, again, just like God forgives me. God forgives me, and God died for me, and so I'm free. Like it was, accountability and like honesty are like huge things for me, and I never got that. I never got like, I did this and I'm sorry, and I wish, whatever it is, fill in the blank, could have done differently. And the same thing goes for my mom. It was never, growing up, I have had so many conversations with her about, this happened, or I felt this way with it. And it was always like, I did the best I could. And as a parent, like, especially now as a parent, like, yes, of course I'm doing the best that I can. And also, I do a lot of things wrong and can learn from them. And that's what I needed to hear. And that's what I choose to do with my kids. Sure, I can go to my husband and say, like, I'm doing the best that I can, and he can give me what I need, right? Like I'm reaching to him or reaching up to others. But I don't need to do that to my kids because, again, they just want love, and that's all I wanted too. Like, I just wanted my mom, even as an adult, to tell me that she messed up. We look at our parents when we're kids as perfection, and that they're taking care of us. And all I wanted to know was that she messed up and that she loved me. And I still to this day have not got that. And a lot of that behavior and the way of that thinking is what led me to deciding that I needed to set those boundaries and not have that relationship with my mom. It was very toxic. It's funny because I read something about the other day, like the difference between toxic and abusive, and I had it all. You know, it wasn't even until a couple years ago in therapy where I finally admitted to myself, because I was in so much denial, that I had physical abuse. I didn't want to accept it. I think one of the biggest moments for me around that was, I mean, most of us, right? Like as kids, we can't remember exactly the situation. I remember my mom, you know, being mad at me, and because I was taught my whole life that God says that it's okay to spank or beat or whatever the version was, that my parent was telling themselves that that was okay. And again, I now am totally against that. I don't believe that that is love. I think that that is fear, and that it ultimately isn't of God or whatever you want to believe your higher power is, that it's not, that's not it. And in this moment, my mom took her belt and was just swinging it at me. And I remember being backed into the corner of the closet with her just full on swinging it at me. My heart is beating sharing that story, and I'm smiling because it's a numbing and protective behavior, and I recognize that. I don't share these things lightly. Over the years as well in therapy, I learned how much I was growing up and I was oversharing as a kid. I wanted someone so deeply to love me and see me and feel me. And now I share this so that you know that you are deeply seen. I share this in hopes, my whole story, as I continue to share my story, I share anything for you to know that you're not alone. And if you've experienced something different or similar, there's no comparison, okay? It's whatever happened to you, happened. Whatever your perception of what happened. Your feelings are valid, and allowing yourself to feel them, whatever they are. You know, it's like, that's it. That's why. So wherever you are, let's just take a deep breath together as this continues. One more. Okay. So, with therapy, I don't even know how we got here, but we did. I remember, I don't exactly know how my life coach asked it to me yesterday, but he said something, because I was talking about how much honesty is important to me in that piece. And he asked me something around like the lines of like, when was the first time that you felt like that wasn't, you know, your reality, that you were told that you were honest or a liar? And a couple things came to my mind. The first thing that came to my mind was in high school. I missed a lot of school. I did not want to be at home, and I did not want to be at school. And so that was a struggle. I honestly didn't even I can remember two times because of this situation, 2 times that I actually ditched school. Again, that perfectionism in me really didn't want to be bad I innately didn't want to be bad. I just felt like I was innately bad. So there was only those 2 times that I can remember. This one time in specific, I was dating a boy who was in town, and I wanted to see him. And right as we teenagers in the moment do, and I was constantly, that will go down a rabbit hole that we could talk about later, but seeking, right, that love from somebody else. So I was told not to see him, even though he was in town, and that I could see him later that night after school, and I didn't want to. So I didn't go to school. And my mom, when I came home, or actually, I think I was already home, all of a sudden there, my mom, it wasn't even my mom, there was a knock on my door to my bedroom, and it was the police officer. And I was arrested. And they took me to like a 24-hour like teen facility. And I don't remember like anything. Like, I remember playing games. I couldn't tell you like what happened, but I do remember like being there and without a bra and being very frustrated about that because, as a teen girl, like I was angry. And I remember getting into the back of the police car with handcuffs. And I remember the police officer looking back at me and saying, like, I don't understand. Like, you seem like a really good kid. Because I was. I just wanted to be loved. And I'll never forget that moment. And I wish I could know more as an adult now, like what he was thinking. I remember, and then another memory came to me even earlier than that. And I was in 6th grade, and the classes had the rooms where there was like 4 rooms and then like a middle one. I remember being brought into the middle of the room. And again, I couldn't tell you what it was for, but I was a liar. And that's all I heard. And that's the message I received in that moment. Was that I was a liar. And I didn't understand. Because again, I've literally been told multiple times, even as an adult, that I don't lie. You get me, and you get the truth for me. Can I totally say that I had to learn boundaries on how to stand up for myself and how I would answer out of my motive of my heart, yes, when I really meant no? Of course. Something that I really loved lately really is like this idea that I learned that most truths have like both and. And I really appreciated this thought because, again, like me and what I tell my kids all the time is like, what is the motive of our heart when we do things? Because that really is telling, right? And when I was at the beginning of like therapy, like it's this pendulum swing. Most of us swing, all or nothing. And being able to know that there's like balance and nuance to that is freeing. When I told someone before, yes, and I really meant no, I've learned how to say no more because I know that I don't have to be accepted by them, right? Like that was my motive for a lot of times saying yes was because I didn't want them to reject me. And now I've learned that in relationships, like I've created so much of those boundaries that flow is already there in my relationships because I've created that. And now when I say yes, sometimes when I don't want to, it's different because I'm choosing to do something because I love someone. Even though I don't necessarily want to, because there's both and. There's sometimes I'm going to say yes when I really don't want to, but it's not because I'm denying myself. It's because I care about this person. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. So, my mom would write in a binder. So, my mom fell a couple years ago in her apartment, and I had to go through her stuff. I was so terrified. I don't have a lot of pictures of when I was a baby, and so I had a couple up until this point, and I was terrified that there would be things in my brother was putting her up in a home. She's in the hospital, and I was scared that if he went through it, that I wouldn't get to see anything. He would just throw it all away. Like, I had this fear so deeply inside of me. And so I wanted to get to it first because I knew that I would give him the things that I found about him, whether or not he cared or not, but I did not feel like that was reciprocated to me. So the urgency was there to get it done. I remember that my husband and I, Daniel, went there, and I grew up. My mom was a hoarder. I mean, I remember we lived in an apartment my whole life, and my mom has, to this day, fibromyalgia. And she would literally she'd buy bins to fill with dirty dishes to put on the sink or all over the sink. And she would have, I remember, like, walls of boxes full of things, and she'd put sheets over it to make it look like it was a regular wall. And so that's what I was walking into to going through. And it was unbelievably triggering. It was hard, man. And that point was kind of like started that. And I think it was either that or right before COVID. And man, like, that really set a tone for the next few years up until right now. That was because that happened, and then my dad died, and then a whole situation with our family happened, and it was intense. Anyways, so going through all of that, getting rid of things, and again, even keeping things for my mom. You know, I knew there were a few things that I could remember as a child she really, cared about. Again, pictures being one of them, and she had a Rolodex and her Bible. And I went through a lot and got rid of a lot. I pretty much cleaned most of it out with Daniel, and it was exhausting. We did that, I think, for 2 or 3 days straight. And I brought some things back, and I did not go through them for a year, and I cleaned out some of it in the year, and then it took me months, and I want to say even possibly up to another year, to fully get rid of most of it. Again, I have that, up until now, I have that scarcity that I am working through, which makes a lot of sense. A lot of the stuff I held on to, though, couldn't look at, were hurtful things. My mom had binders full of, like, checklists of things that I needed to do. And if I didn't do them, I was, spanked, or I would have to write out scripture verses over and over again. And in high school, I would have to pay her too. I had to pay her for shampoo and conditioner and soaps and razors. And if I wanted to go to work, I had to pay her for gas. And even until adulthood, that was actually probably one of my biggest last conversations with her was I told her she needed to let it go because she wouldn't. She would still, I mean, I think I haven't talked to her, maybe really talked to her again, like with the whole, other than the hospitalization, like situation. I don't know when it was. Anyways, again, beside the point, that I like, I blew up. I was in the driveway of this house and I lost it on her. And again, couldn't remember exactly what I said, but there was something to the effect that like, you need to let go of me paying you back this money. And I still, even to this day, think that that is wild. Because again, I was a kid. Like, that is, having a child is the fundamentals, like food, water, clothes, taking care of them. And it's just, yeah. And anyways, so she'd have these lists of things and she had these binders and would check them off if I did or didn't do them, and had all the scriptures that I had to write, and basically just like binders of how shitty of a person I was, and I couldn't go through them. And then eventually I kind of opened it up and went through a little bit, and that was just really triggering for me, and I got the strength to throw them away. I don't know why I wanted to keep them. It's still hard for me. Like, I still like that. I feel like sad for myself and empathy for myself, like, and compassion for myself, like, with why I wanted to keep them. I feel like it's, sadly just kind of like a piece of like wanting my mom and wanting that mother. In all of that stuff too, I found papers that she was going to give me up for adoption. And again, I laugh because it's so sad. Like, to go that far as a teenager, to give them up for adoption. Like, how unwanted. Like, how sad. Like, I could not even imagine. And sad for her. Like, I cannot imagine how sad she must have been. How dark it must have been for her to be in a place to give up your child as a teenager. Which reminded me that so in high school as well, that was the last time that I ended up living with my brother and his wife in high school. And it was because the therapist thought it would be a good idea because she had been hitting me. I don't know, like, what was happening, or like, again, I know that there's a lot of pieces of the system that are really messed up. So I don't know if the therapist like did call, DCS, or what was happening. And also maybe it was because I was going to go live with my brother. So that's what I did. And that was even worse. It was just a different level. It felt worse to me. I felt like I was literally in a prison. So I went from like a mind fuckery with my mom of like, you have to listen to me, but like, you can do whatever you want, but you're not allowed to. Like, again, like these swings of like what didn't make sense to me, into like my brother's house where it was like locked down. Like, I was a prisoner. You can't do anything. There was literally a point where I could literally go to homeschool in church because I couldn't be trusted. And that's the message that I got from my brother, even at church. You know, he was a youth leader, and it was like everybody else was more important than me. You know, I was just a problem. I was a problem that he was given and didn't want, and I was not enough and could never be enough for him or his wife. And again, all I wanted was to be loved and cared about. So I wasn't getting it, so I was seeking it out through guys and using my body, because to me that's how I got it. I'm going to look at the time now. I'm not, again, used to doing this solo act. There's so much more to my story. Again, it's when you're talking, like, a lot of this I didn't even write down in my hour of writing things down that were coming to me. It wasn't even in this. I remember, and I'll kind of like end with this about my story for today, that I was talking with my therapist, and for years I kept saying, like, I can't remember things. I don't remember things. Like, I don't know why my memory is bad. And finally she said to me, Abigail, I don't think your memory is bad. I just think you have a lot of bad memories and had a lot of bad things happen to you. And that was really eye-opening for me and made sense. I do have a really great memory. I also don't have a lot of great memories. All right, let's take a couple deep breaths together. Let's just take a nice deep breath. We're going to do a couple through the mouth and out of the mouth to release all of this energy that we've just brought up, myself included. We're going to go through the mouth and out the mouth. Breathe with me. Roll out whatever needs to be rolled out. All right, let's go into a breath hold. Taking a nice deep breath in. Hold at the top. And let it all out. Switching through the nose, out the mouth. Feeling more calm. Present. Connected. Taking a deep breath in. Letting it all out. Hold out. When you breathe in gratitude. Just allowing your breath to come back to its regular state, its natural state. Getting to bring your awareness back. Wiggling your fingers and toes. Oh, so sorry, guys. So much to look forward to in season 2. I am so excited to have new people on, getting to hear things that they're passionate about, having more solo episodes like this where you get to hear more of my story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being in this space with me. I am so honored and excited to be here with you. All right. Welcome to season 2, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks, friends, for listening in. If you found this helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. If you'd like to be more involved in our community, hop over to Instagram and find me at Abigail Luvisi. Keep showing up. I will too. See you next time.